As we talked about with the nitride action, lube, it matters still.
It still
You gotta put
matters.
lube in there.
Everything is better with lube. I mean, yeah. So bring everything to max torque spec, and don't be afraid to use blue thread locker or even red or whatever floats your boat. Put it on there. You don't want shit coming loose when you're in the field.
Hola, cholas and chicas. I'm with my Yesis right now. Both of them are pretty loco off their feet. That's Hernandez. And that's Rique.
Soy Hernandez.
Hey, how you doing?
They're crazy, man, but we just want to let you know that we appreciate your support. And most importantly, enjoy the podcast.
Enjoy the podcast.
Sí.
What?
Hey, that was good.
That was one of their better ones. I like when Luke brings in, other talent. If
Was
you will.
that Rhett?
Was that Red?
Who's the
Owen?
second voice?
I don't know.
Hey, who's the second voice, guys?
No, it's Red and Owen.
That's Rhett and Owen? Oh, shit. Well, we got a 3-man crew out there now, the social media team there. And now, yeah, he's using that dude. That was pretty good.
That was impressive.
I couldn't have told you who it was.
No, I thought that was Luke and Rhett.
Obviously, if you can't figure it out, this is the first time we heard that intro. It's pretty good.
That is pretty good. I always, sometimes they hit it out of the park and sometimes they don't.
It made me laugh cry.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
Yeah. Might have to listen to it again.
We always have you guys, the listeners, you're doing a good job, but we're always struggling for actual content titles, what to talk about. Like sometimes, most time I walk in, I was like, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, that's because the fucking red carpet gets rolled out for Tay-Tay. Fucking, I want my strawberry milk ready. I'll be here at 9:45.
I should put that in my contract.
You better have the topic ready.
The strawberry 42 gram protein.
Yeah, these are we're not sponsored by Fairlife, but the Fairlife Core Power Elite Strawberry 42 gram complete protein drinks are pretty badass.
The other one's 30 grams. Just a straight chocolate. It's pretty good.
It has a funny taste. The 42 chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry are all good.
See, I like
But Fairlife is funny because it's like they came on with a bad one and then they slowly got better or something. But these are not at Costco. You got to get
you
these.
can't get those at Costco at all.
You got to get these at the fucking gas station or off Amazon.
What are they a case at Amazon?
They end up being about $4 a jug. There's a 12 count pack. Sometimes you can get a little bit cheaper, like $3, $3.50, but it's good. It's like a ready-made. It's cheaper to do your own protein mix like that and put 3 scoops, and they're much cheaper. In fact, Costco just came out with their own brand of protein powder. Like we buy our other protein there all the time. I forget what the fucking name is, but it's their regular bag.
How many grams do you get out of the stuff you use? The powder.
It is it's 25 grams per scoop. So you can go as crazy as you want. Like, so we just switched up to using milk instead of water, and it's a lot more difficult to mix up. But the milk in there is like another scoop, right? So you got 3 scoops plus milk in that bottle is about 4. So it's about 100 grams of protein.
So I haven't taken any whey protein since high school, early Army days, and it tasted like shit. But I heard it's a lot better tasting now.
Oh yeah, that one we get from Costco is definitely the best one. And I think Costco is having the same company make theirs with their Kirkland signature on there, but we buy the other bags when they're 20% off or whatever, but the new Kirkland one is like $45 a bag. But that compared to this, you're going to get 30 or 40 fucking drinks. Whereas if you spend the same money, you're going to get 10 of these,
We talked about it before the podcast about Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She's like a big proponent of protein. She says we're fucking under-proteined, way over-carbed, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I was looking at protein, and you say you need, and she also says you pretty much need a fucking gram of protein per pound of body weight.
That's kind of a good rule of thumb.
Is it the body weight you want to be, or is it the body weight you're at now?
I would say that if you're really trying to gain mass, that you want as much as possible. Guys can even go up as much as 2 grams. I mean, you're going to shit out what your body doesn't use.
Yeah, but so how, I was always looking at carb shit like eggs, or not carb, but protein stuff like eggs, blah, blah, blah. How do you fucking hit, 275 pounds?
280 right now, baby.
Oh, fuck. How do you hit 280 a day?
So like I was telling you, so that one drink right there, we drink that after each workout always, and that's 100 grams. I'll hit probably at least one of these a day at 42 grams. So
That's
I'm already
the Core Power, the Fairlife strawberry milk.
Yeah, 42 grams on that guy. So I'm halfway there. And then, it's always protein heavy at this point. So like this weekend, I went to Costco and I bought 2 of the big packs of the boneless chicken thighs and Traegered them, chopped them up into little pieces. And right now, so I'll take I like the Jasmine Uncle Ben's ready-made rice. It'll be 1 pack of rice and probably 2 cups of chicken.
Gotcha.
So a cup of chicken, obviously, is a healthy amount of protein. I think it's 30 to 40 grams.
Mm-hmm.
And then so 2 of those and that rice. And then maybe I'll do that twice a day. Or eggs is a big winner. A lot of people say eggs is like the number one.
Cleanest protein.
I just read one guy said that if you can eat, it's difficult to do, obviously, but 36 eggs a day
What the fuck?
is the equivalent of doing a mild anabolic steroid cycle.
36. That's a lot.
36 eggs a
of
day.
Fucking chickens.
Now here we could probably, Rhett, Google amount of protein per egg, would you? So he's basically saying that high protein intake has a similar effect on your body as performance enhancing drugs do. A lot of guys, their testosterone's high because they're on TRT or whatever it is, and they're going there lifting every day, but they simply don't get enough protein to gain mass or to even convert, fat to muscle, whatever it is that you're doing. They don't do the other part they need to do. So basically the guy's just saying that if you get enough protein in your diet, it's almost as good.
That, like, not to keep bringing her up, but I just listened to this podcast not too long ago, and she's like, the reason like people always want to say we're deficient in this and we're deficient in that, and protein always gets this bad rap of it can hurt your body, it can hurt I don't remember if she said kidneys, liver, or whatever, but it's like not true. And it's been like fed to us because it's expensive, like to put into the food system to get high quality protein. To get protein is also expensive, and carbs obviously are not. And it goes back to, we talked about Kellogg and Graham, and when they invented the high carb fucking snacks for the military back in World War I, it was never meant to be a long-term thing, but we have turned it because it's cheap and easy for the fucking, people to produce it and feed the world basically.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is protein's A, expensive, and B, they wanted to put a kind of like back in the day when the war on drugs, and all marijuana is bad for you. Well, protein's bad for you because protein is a huge problem for governments to fucking produce.
Yep. Not only that, but I've actually read before that with the amount of humans that are on the planet, there is not enough agricultural land to support the mass consumption of protein for every human being.
Yeah, you said it better than me, but that's what I was getting at is like we cannot do it with what we have in place right now.
The planet cannot sustain every human having a gram of protein per pound of body weight. The Earth simply cannot do it.
And they're trying to do it. What's funny is they're alluding to it. I don't remember if it was in that podcast or another one that I listened to. They're trying to do it with all this fucking Impossible Whopper, the fake meat.
Yep.
But it actually takes more energy and more fucking actual time to do it that way and money than it does just to fucking, have a cow.
Yeah.
Have a cow, reproduce, and have another cow.
Yeah.
It's way cheaper that way. It's a fucking interesting little dynamic.
Oh yeah. Some of those bodybuilders too, that actually raise their own. Hey, could you blow up 6 grams per egg? So what is that guy saying? So 36 eggs times 6, that'd be 180 plus 30, so 216 grams, which is pretty high. Obviously, it depends on what your body weight is, but anybody that's going to get over 200 grams of protein per day,
they pretty much debunked the cholesterol issue with eggs, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm no fitness expert. I just listen to shit and go, never thought about that.
Anyways, that was the protein kick.
The protein kick.
Uh-huh.
Well, go ahead. This is your podcast. You describe.
It was my idea anyway.
Well, I don't like to give credit where credit is due.
I should say that almost all podcasts are almost my idea.
No, well, I would say 60-40. Like the good ones are my idea. And the okay ones are your ideas?
So the 40% that are good, those were definitely all you. All right, so coming into hunting season here, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about upgrading your rifle. And this could mean a few different things like we were talking about. So improving shooting technique, rifle maintenance, and then upgrading your rifle. So as hunting season approaches, we can always tell when guys are getting fired up because the store gets busy. Guys are walking in, they're bringing their rifles in for a number of reasons. They want their barrel threaded so they can put a muzzle brake on, or they just they were having an issue last year, so they want to get their rifle cleaned up. It's no different than all the bow guys getting their bows tuned just before hunting season. It's kind of similar for the rifle guys. Yeah, so that's the topic. We're going to talk about, we can talk about, easy ways to improve your shooting skills before hunting season, I guess.
Yep. One thing I want to bring up to you, or ask you a question about, because you said it last week and we'd talked about it before, is there's always like this lull, like you go into March and you're like, fuck, we aren't selling nothing. So now you have a track record of what, 3-4 years, 5?
Yeah. And February, March, April, we had the worst retail sales of business history during those 3 months.
It's interesting because correlated to rock slide dies often, but for some reason, May, June, lowest time of the year for fucking actual threads and like actual correspondence on the forum, back and forth. And then as soon as fucking the 4th of July is over, it's like goddamn gangbusters.
Yep.
And I think you said it was kind of similar.
Oh yeah. Well, right now the store has been slammed with guys bringing in, looking for upgrades or this installed or that installed or just double checking your gear. There's a lot of guys, you have a lot of OCD out there in the hunting world, and everybody just wants to make sure their shit's in line and dialed in and ready to kill something.
Well, I think we should start before we get into the upgrades, starting like, the condition of your rifle. Cause I wanted to pull in a thread that we talked about before the podcast about thread lockers.
Well, how many fucking guys that we know are they're going out and they're hunting all season with this rifle that's slung over their shoulder. It's in the rain, it's in the dirt, it's in the fucking pine needles, it's in everything else. And when they get all done and it's, the end of November, they put it in the safe and they never look at it again until September. They don't think about it. So, these are the kind of guys we're talking about. Yeah. Anyway, so thread locker.
Thread locker, there's this big, huge debate. And it's funny to me. It's like, you can be right and you can be wrong. There is a middle ground there. You can't always be right. And it's like these threads go into these.
So you mean it's like Ryan and then Jake. So Jake can always be right.
No, pretty much
most of the time
wrong.
Ryan's wrong.
It reminds me of the video of Florida when he went down to Stockies and went pig hunting. When Jake said he was going to wrestle this pig to the ground.
Uh-huh.
The video, anyways, it's fresh in my mind, so it didn't happen quite that way.
That video that video is going to come out pretty soon. It's fucking. I would say, if I do say so myself, it's pretty entertaining.
And not to get off on another caveat, I'm watching this shit and I'm like, not everybody's going to love this film, but I'm also selfish and I will have this film. My kids will have this film forever. So a little bit selfish and like, fuck the crowds. If they don't like it, I'll like it. It brought back a lot of memories. I guess that's what we do it for, is it brings back a lot of memories.
It does.
Yeah.
That's why everybody wants to take a photo with the, the animal they drop and
the grip and grit.
You want to experience it later when you're showing off.
Yes.
Yeah.
But on the thread locker, it's like these people have to be right. And it came down to forum talks a lot about paint pens and blue Loctite. It kind of felled him, and moving to fingernail polish, paint pen and a little bit of red Loctite. And, people are back and forth. Well, you're not putting it on right. I've been a mechanic for this long. I've been doing this for this long. And obviously it fucking works. It wouldn't be out there. And nobody's disclaiming that.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying from my aspect, and I'll let you talk about your side being a mechanic, is I have used blue Loctite for the brand Loctite, buy at Home Depot, blue. And on 300 Ultras, especially, it has 100% failed me when I put a pick rail on top of an action. You'll shoot the gun 10, 15 times, and then you can fucking wiggle the fucking pick rail. So it came loose, and it came loose on the action screws. And I'm not talking, this happens every time. Although on the pick rail, it does happen probably 50% of the time.
Well, the pick rail, you basically just picked the most susceptible component for failure. Mm-hmm. So it's in line with all of the recoil, and it has tiny fucking screws that are holding it down. So if you had, let's say, for example, if you had a Remington 700 rail that wasn't built into an action, get one with a recoil lug built into it like the SRS ones, because then all the pressure hits that recoil lug before it starts to stir the screws up. But you have these 2 or 3 or 4 or pins or little baby fucking screws with the smallest amount of Loctite. I mean, there's not a lot of pressure. And then as soon as you pull the trigger, all that recoil force is exactly in line with breaking all that. We have Mr. Turbin. We have a local customer here who sheared off on a Christensen, sheared off those screws not once but twice. And we installed it here both times.
Wouldn't have mattered if it was locked down or not.
It didn't matter. Like it was just, so it was a 300 Win Mag. And I don't know what we ended up doing in that situation. I think we ended up swapping it out for a recoil lug rail. But yeah, that's one of the worst part. I would put red on those no matter what, because first of all, you don't plan on removing that rail unless you have to, right? Once that fucking rail is on there, a lot of guys like to bed that rail to the top of their action, which increases the surface area contact to reduce the effect of that recoil on those screws. So if get a rail with a recoil lug, bed the rail if you have to. I mean, I guess the best solution for that would be buy an action with an integrated rail.
This day and age, and I beat this drum, I don't know why you wouldn't just buy one that's integrated.
Yeah.
Then there'd never be a problem.
Well, it's always more expensive. In the manufacturing machining world, when you add that extra material on top and you go, it has to be that big when you buy the round of steel to account for that rail. So it's definitely more expensive, but you're eliminating moving parts and variables of your action at that point.
It's the same reason drop testing. It's like, why not eliminate that variable?
Yeah.
And then it's the blue Loctite thing, to continue on, is there's also the argument of how it's applied. And that was like a big fucking debate in the thread.
It is.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different things that go along with that. So you have two surfaces that are contacting each other. If there's any foreign material, debris, or lubricants of any kind on those, you're gonna reduce the effect of the thread locker. How much thread locker you install. These can have a huge effect on its overall effectiveness on what you're doing. So back to the rail, in that situation, knowing that you have a small amount of surface area of threads holding all that rail and shit together, red would be the better choice. First of all, because you're never going to want to remove the rail. Why would you? Right? So red is simply I guess we should preface this with blue thread locker is supposed to be temporary and removable. And then red is supposed to be permanent. And then there's even further ones than that. And I don't know all the details. There's like a black,
green.
There's some shit that's never supposed to come off no matter what you do. Red can come off fairly easily with some heat. But there's some shit in there that's even more permanent than that. Yeah. So maybe do you have a comment in particular in there that
Let me look it up real quick. The thing that was, I always, I like to stir shit up. The problem is,
Really?
I do like when they fuck with form, and then they were talking about nail polish, and somebody said, well, basically it was Form or Randy with a guy that they like, RuPaul has entered the chat.
Well, I guess all things being equal, it doesn't matter what the color is.
No.
Whether you're buying paint pen or fucking nail polish, it doesn't matter.
So I've been using paint pen, and honestly, probably right before COVID. So I mean, trying to 19-ish probably. And action screw wise, I really haven't had any rifles, hard kicking rifles with, not integrated pick rails. Everything's pretty much been integrated. But with the paint pen, say what you want on screws, screw rings, on the action thread or action screws, nothing's came loose.
Mm-hmm.
I have had blue Loctite come loose on the action screws.
I definitely think that the paint pen has a little bit, maybe it's closer to red than blue.
Well, explain this to people. When people throw around these words, and I don't think all these people know what these words mean, but thread locker from Loctite is anaerobic. What does that mean?
Anaerobic. Ana is without, aerobic is air. So basically once the sealant is without the presence of oxygen, it begins to cure. So the idea is that when you put a couple drops on your screw there, it's in the air at that point, right? And then you go to screw it in. Once it's screwed in, most of that sealant is deprived of air, and it starts to cure. So an anaerobic sealant.
Gotcha. So this is another bone contention, is people are putting too much on. So then it's not, you don't believe that?
Well, basically, so it all goes back to surface area contact. Now the question really is how much actually works? Like how much do you need to apply for it to work the way you want it to? Nobody's going to really know that. You can buy screws that actually have pre-installed thread locker. They'll have just a small area of blue or red, and it's dried up at that point. My thought process is I try to think mechanically, and the more surface area contact that you have with thread locker, the more solid the lockup would be. So why have less when you can have more? I mean, I like to put enough on there to where when I'm screwing it in, every thread is being coated evenly because it's pushing the access out as you're screwing something in. And then even have a little bit come out the top. And then you know that every threaded surface there is covered with thread locker, and then there's no air, and then it will seal up. And yeah.
So would there be, since it's anaerobic, would there be a wait cure time before you'd go shooting?
Yes. I don't know what the cure time
No,
is, to be
this is
honest
like
with you.
all the speculation. That
I
comes
wouldn't
into this shit.
go right out. It doesn't fucking happen like instantly. Like if you've ever done any type of JB weld or any 2-part epoxy, you'll mix the 2 parts together and it will slowly start to warm up. And it's starting to do its flash off, and then the magic is happening. Then it'll get really fucking hot, and then it instantly solidifies. Then it's no longer usable for what you're doing. So every type of material like that, and I don't know what thread locker. Hey, Rhett, would you look up work time or cure? Type in cure time for blue thread locker.
So this is just one I'm picking. There's 200 comments. So it's hard to pick through, but that was one of the things. Is it was basically, I think it was with the Bear Camp rifle. They pulled the pin. You guys put blue on it.
Yep.
They pulled the fucking screw, and it still was wet. And it was like a week later.
Oh no
That
shit.
was like the basis of it. But this guy said, his name's Wrench. He's a pretty good poster. He said, Loctite is anaerobic curing. It is still, if it's still wet, it's probably because it's either 27-year-old bottle from Walmart or your pitch diameters was a mess. What does pitch diameters was a mess mean?
The 2 screwed, like the actual thickness of the thread locker between the threads was too thick for it to cure. So that's actually a good point. I don't know if there's going to be, can you blow that up for us with your like Control A or whatever so we can see it better? 24 hours. No, like blow the whole screen up for us.
24
so we
fucking
can read
hours, huh? Or 1 hour at 93
it.
degrees.
Just right click or whatever and zoom in on the view.
So you got to heat it up. It says 24 hours at room temperature or 1 hour at 93 or 200 degrees.
Blow it up, Brett. I know you can hear me. Make it bigger on the screen, Junior.
It says the rate of cure will depend on the ambient temperature. Full cure is attainable in 24 hours at room temperature.
So that's a good point, and that's probably the spec, but that spec also requires a predetermined thickness of thread locker, which is what the guy is talking about.
Yeah, this is like why it gets a little hazy.
So, and there's a lot of fucking variables, just like everything else in life. So if the 2 threads are too far apart and the thread locker is too thick, it's not going to cure all the way through for some reason, right? So that guy's right. There's nothing wrong with what he said.
Hey, look up the instructions for putting on blue Loctite.
Yeah, blue thread locker installation.
This is funny how we're debating this too now. It's like these threads turn into monsters.
It's not really a debate. There's a lot of points here that are correct, right? There's a lot of different variables. So I started to tell you that thread locker's ability to lock threads properly is determined by the cleanliness of the 2 parts you're trying to join together. So if you got any remaining oil, residues, dirt, anything that's in there is going to prevent that thread locker from sealing those 2 surfaces. So everything's got to be clean. Obviously, you have to have somewhat relatively new Loctite that's not old.
And I didn't know this, but this is like the inactive active metals. It doesn't work on stainless.
Use a primer when both surfaces are considered inactive. It is necessary to apply the primer to one surface in most cases unless gaps are excessive. See chart below. Clean and prime.
It's crazy.
Anodized aluminum. Yeah, and stainless steel. Well, we definitely use stainless steel screws in our process. I think that primer / clean, the reason it says clean and prime, I think it's more important that it's clean than primed.
So what is like getting in this kind of steers back to the, not only, upgrades for your rifle, but prepping for the season. When you put together a rifle and it comes out of Unknown Munitions, what is the process on all the screws and the base screws, ring screws?
Oh, yeah. Everything is degreased and blue Loctited and torqued to the maximum specification. But not only torqued, but we torque and then back off and then retorque. There can be any number of variables where on that initial torque, you're not actually hitting the torque because something needed to be compressed. There was a bit of dirt in it, whatever the situation might be. You want to come to torque, release, and then come to full torque.
Let's back it a little bit, come back in.
Yes.
And I did see Keaton, so it's kind of it's interchangeable with you guys. I've seen him using some paint pen back there too.
So they do use paint pen, and I think it's really because it's a better thread locker than the blue. But we have found on the Tikka trigger screw, the paint pen is better there. We had some situations where those screws backed off with blue. kind of going back to what you
Another
talked about.
case point.
It is. So for some reason, due to recoil or whatever else, that one screw in its position trying to hold that trigger has some issues there and requires a better thread locker.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you think, and we're all just, it's not fact here. We're just what we have seen happen.
This is a learning
Yeah,
experience.
you think paint pen could be a little better than blue? Why?
Well, because in that situation with that Tikka trigger bolt or screw, we were having issues with blue Loctite backing off. So a customer would come back in and say, hey, my trigger doesn't feel right. And all of a sudden we look at it and the blue Loctite is there, but it backed off. And these are all just, it's an immediate feedback loop. Like we talked about making stocks after my trip there last week, right?
Yeah.
So, if Keaton knows that he just assembled that rifle 3 weeks ago and he's confident in his assembly process, and then it comes back and a screw is loose, you're like, hey, why did that fucking screw come loose? And it could be an anomaly, or you could pay attention to it or look for some type of pattern. And it did happen again. And we're like, okay, we need something a little sturdier. Use the paint pen, and we haven't had an issue since.
Yeah.
So that's your feedback loop.
Feedback loops, I put a lot of stocks, switched them out, put them on. When you put on the blue Loctite, it doesn't always feel the same coming out. Sometimes it comes out easy. Sometimes you can feel it. With the paint pen, it's consistently the same feel every time you take it apart.
Yeah.
Which to me, I think it's more consistent.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know that as just what I feel with hundreds, if not thousands of stocks I've taken apart to swap.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
There is a lot of different types of paint pens out there. We do have paint pens on Shoot to Hunt and on Unknown if you're worried about getting the wrong type. But yeah, okay, for through holes, apply several drops of product under the bolt. For blind holes, apply several drops down the female threads in the bottom of the hole. As threads are engaged, compressed air forces the product upwards into the threads. So that all makes sense.
See that Permatex, people say that shit's garbage instead of the Loctite brand.
Enhance your shooting experience with Stocky Stocks. Are you tired of struggling with mediocre rifle stocks that hinder your performance? Imagine having a high-quality rifle stock that not only enhances your accuracy, but also provides superior strength in a lightweight build. Stocky Stocks offers a wide range of premium rifle stocks manufactured with hand layup carbon fiber construction, a patented carbon fiber AccuBlock, and multiple finish options. Whether you're a long-range shooter or a hunting enthusiast, our stocks are perfect for you. Experience unmatched precision and durability with Stocky Stocks. We provide stock installation instructions, technical support, and guidance to help you choose the right stock for your rifle. Upgrade your shooting game today with Stocky Stocks.
Yeah, so to go back, so there's Loctite is a brand name of thread locker. There's a lot of different companies that make thread locker. I would tell you that the Loctite brand is probably the most well known for being a good product. So just spend that little bit of extra money and get the name brand instead of the fucking Walmart brand of cereal, basically, because sometimes it ain't the same shit.
I was just thinking, we need to make the Unknown thread locker paint pen.
There you go. There you go. And it's going to have instructions on the side. Apply liberally. Clean your parts before. Also, then it's important how you clean your parts too. There are cleaners that leave behind residue. So, for example, acetone leaves behind a residue. You want to use like brake cleaner or electrical cleaner. And luckily here in the state of Idaho, it ain't like fucking California where they took away like the good shit. Like you can't get good brake cleaner in California anymore. Because of what, like the VOCs or some bullshit?
Has the oily thing that makes it disintegrate is like toxic.
Yes.
So whatever that evaporation thing is.
Yeah. So luckily up here we can still get the good shit. So if you're worried, just get brake cleaner or electrical cleaner. Kind of same shit, but yeah.
And don't use carb cleaner because I saw that some people carb cleaner has some kind of residue.
Yeah, Chem Dip, carb cleaner, acetone. Yeah.
Well, I think we beat that horse pretty hard.
Maybe it was acetone that is okay.
I think
maybe it was the carb cleaner that had the problem.
Acetone is okay, I think.
Okay. Probably lacquer, like any type of paint thinner.
Because yes, it is okay.
Yeah.
And then
that's right, because that's what we do with the screw. We put them in the put them in the sonic vibrator.
Sonic.
Not that type of vibrator, the sonic vibrating cabinet.
You might have the gutter.
Yeah.
It's interesting how people can come to so many different conclusions.
But there is think about all the variables that we talked about. None of them are really wrong.
No.
Like if your thread pitch was all fucked up and there was too much in there, then yeah, maybe it won't cure.
Yeah, but it's like I get it. If you haven't seen something fail, we talked about it. You've never seen really a big trigger fail. You know,
Yeah.
it's until you see it happen, and then it's in your mind. Because I know how your brain works. If you start seeing that failure, you're going to be like,
There's got to be a pattern for me.
yes,
Not an anomaly,
Yeah.
not a one-off.
yes. And it's when I think about when I taking those screws out, the blue's sometimes tight, sometimes not.
That's a good point you have about the consistency and feel, because it wouldn't matter then the thickness or how much you put in or anything else like that. The way it cures, it feels like you have the same amount of tension trying to release the screw.
Yeah, like you feel the same with that pin
Drag.
pin. Yeah,
Same amount of drag.
Same amount of drag. Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, let's move on to other things.
So to go back to the rifle maintenance, it isn't a bad idea to disassemble your rifle, clean everything. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you need to take your barrel down to steel or anything like that. I'm not talking about internal barrel cleaning. I would say that if something is still shooting well, I wouldn't touch the barrel.
Mhm.
But cleaning out your bolt, your raceways, your lugways, your fire control group. So however your action, the fire control group is where the trigger spring is. The firing pin spring, firing pin itself, like disassemble that area, because if there's shit in there, there's a high chance that it could prevent your proper primer strike.
Yeah.
And you could have a misfire on right when the fucking buck is standing there. So take all that shit apart again. That's called your fire control group. Whatever action it is, there's going to be a YouTube video that explains how to do it. The Tika is a lot easier if you get this little Tika disassembly tool. It's a little plastic part. But yeah, tear everything down, inspect it, put everything back together, and torque to the high end of torque. We talked about this. So you have a choice. Like, for example, at Stockies, their action bolt torque spec is 45 to 65. So me and Ryan were sitting here talking beforehand, and we tend to go to the max.
Yes, and we're not norm. That's not the norm.
No,
It's not. Most people go to the fucking minimum.
they don't want to break something or hurt something, and it's natural. I mean, if you have an expensive rifle or something and you're not experienced with screws in general, like I've snapped a lot of engine bolts in my time, and actually, believe it or not, so like on a Volvo D13 engine up on the rack, those bolts are stretched. They're torque yield bolts. So you only get so many torques out of that bolt. You're supposed to ding a dot on the top of the bolt head, and it can only be torqued so many times before it's trash.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody keeps track of that shit. So you might go in there and you might be adjusting the rack for the 5th time, and you go to torque this one screw, and you'll torque it to a spec 120 foot-pounds, and then it's an angle torque.
Yeah.
That's what torque to yield is.
Okay.
So you'll hit 120 foot-pounds, and then you got to go 90 degrees.
Oh, really?
And right in the middle of that 90 degrees, you feel it. You feel it start to ease up. And then it eases up and eases up, and then it's going to go boop, and it breaks in half.
No shit.
It's still easy to get out or whatever,
Right.
but that bolt is made, it's torque yield bolt, and it's made to fail at a certain point because you're stretching it with that angle. It's no longer about a foot-pound of torque anymore. It's hit a torque, angle it.
Interesting.
Anyways.
On the things that people see in larger numbers is, I was talking to Keaton, this has been like 2 or 3 months ago. And I was like, I said, what do you see normally when your customer rifle? What's one thing that stands out when customers bring a rifle to you guys to fix? He's like, loose action screws.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll go do it, and it'll be like this simple little turn. He's like, so it couldn't possibly probably be accurate unless that thing was pigeonholed in there somewhere with the bedding. He said, but it's loose action screws.
Yeah.
And that's because people don't want to fucking cinch them down, man.
It's not even that. They don't want a Loctite to be there.
Yeah, that's
For some reason, the
crazy to
term
me.
Loctite in their head means I'll never take it off again or something like this. Or, anyways, we can go back. We did not talk about thread locker. There are some guys that believe thread locker changes your torque specification.
Oh, yes.
And you can, yes, it does, but the amount is so minimal, it does not matter to you. Not at a 65 inch-pound rate that we're talking about.
That's like that stupid engineer brain that says, oh, it could be this, 2 inch pounds.
It could be, you could be torquing to 67 inch-pounds. Yes, that's very possible.
Yeah.
But is that extra 2 inch-pounds making a fucking difference to you? No. And it's less than that, actually. When you get up into, 500 foot-pounds or something like this, maybe it's going to matter. In fact, like these engine bolts I'm talking to you about, all of those specifications were with motor oil on the threads.
Oh, really?
So the same motor oil you would use in the motor, because it's all motor oil. There's oil all over everything. You're never really going to get a clean bolt in that area ever. So every spec is developed with motor oil on the threads. Yeah. And obviously that's a lubricant. There's going to be some change in torque spec, but the torque spec's developed with the lubricant. Going back to the thread locker, yes, it will change your torque spec, but it's a fucking minimal amount, and it is more important to worry about coming to a proper torque spec than it is to worry about thread locker on the fucking bolt.
That's the same guy that, it's a 40 to 60 or 40 to 65 inch pounds, and he's getting to 40.
Yeah.
He's worried about that fucking 2 or 3 inch pounds.
Yes. So definitely I would come to so after you disassembled your rifle, clean everything up, clean your fire control group. There's a number of different lubricants that you can use in your fire control group. We like Milcom. It's what Bat Machine suggests. They give a little tubelet with it with your action. I even carry a little tubelet in my hunting gear because you might take your bolt apart and you might have been in whatever situation. Take it apart, clean it, put a little bit of lube in there. It's good to have in the field too. It's called Milcom.
As we talked about with the nitrided action, lube, it matters still.
It still
Don't
matters.
put lube in there.
Everything is better with lube. I mean, yeah. So bring everything to max torque spec and don't be afraid to use blue thread locker or even red or whatever floats your boat. Put it on there. You don't want shit coming loose when you're in the field.
No. And what you said about taking your rifle apart after the season,
Mm-hmm.
I used to poo-poo that shit, just like cleaning barrels, which I still don't clean barrels. But a couple of times I've taken my rifle apart after a hard use fall, and half a fucking tree fell out of it in pine needles.
Yes.
So I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea to take that shit apart.
So how about this? How about if you had pine needles between the stock and the barrel, is that going to affect your accuracy?
Yes.
Definitely. That means your barrel hitting fucking pine needles instead of hitting air.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can shit rust up. Shit does, gets weathered. I mean, hopefully you're out there fucking in all kinds of weathers, because animals are out when it's cold and shitty.
And if you are a barrel cleaner, don't clean your barrel down to steel and then leave it in the fucking safe for the next 9 months without something inside there. It can rust.
I give you a tech tip. Just clean the throat and move on.
Yes. No, the throat. Yeah. Definitely you got to clean your whole chamber area. There's lots of good tools out there, but stay away from the barrel unless you need to. We do offer all these services here at Unknown. If you want a pre-hunting rifle inspection and tear down, we do all that shit here. It's just an hour of labor. Cost you $75.
Yeah, and if you have a 700 trigger, I highly suggest running some lighter fluid through it or something to clean out the trigger after the season.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah. If you're
Why lighter fluid?
I don't think because it evaporates, doesn't have residue.
So same idea as the brake cleaner and
Not
everything
lighter
else.
fluid. Sorry, it's the stupid lighter. God damn, what's the lighter stuff in?
Oh, like the Zippo.
The Zippo lighter fluid stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still lighter fluid, I guess.
Butane?
Yes, butane.
Okay.
That shit, because it evaporates.
Huh. All right. So, rifle maintenance.
That's it.
How about let's call it shooting maintenance right before hunting season? You haven't shot all fucking year. You just pulled your rifle out. It's all rusty, full of pine needles and shit. It's September.
Well, first of all, you're already wrong.
Yep. You should have been practicing all year.
Yep.
But for these guys, because they're out there, they do it the same way every fucking year. They don't actually plan to fire around. Take some 3 boxes of factory ammo to zero the rifle. These are the guys.
Yeah, but I hope that's not your customer. But I'm assuming it is in some aspects.
Yeah.
But you should put a couple. I mean, come on. Let's make sure it's zeroed, because the biggest reason we miss is your rifle's not zeroed.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we put 20 rounds into zeroing, and then just have an extra box of 20 to go kill shit.
Real fast zero process. We've decided amongst the 3 of us that 10 shots for a hunting rifle. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you're going to get yourself on paper, and it doesn't matter where you're fucking aiming or where the bullets are hitting at that point. Aim at the same spot, shoot 10 rounds in a row, right?
Yep.
However big that group is, 1.4, 1.2, 1.9, whatever it is, find the center of that group.
Mm-hmm.
Find out what your change is to get on your point of aim. Make that adjustment on your scope. Fire 1 round. If it's within that cone of fire of your target, we're done. Is that correct?
Correct.
There you go. So that would be the shoot to hunt method of zeroing your hunting rifle. It does not matter how big your even a 33XC. It doesn't matter. That would be your process. So 0 is important. And obviously it takes at least 11 rounds,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a few more to get on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hopefully, if you're that guy that you were zeroed last year and then you just pulled your rifle back out and you can't even hit a peeper, something's wrong with your rifle.
Yes. The thing that a 10 round group to start tells you, if there's any actual problems mechanically with the rifle,
Mm-hmm.
because you'll notice a group could walk. You could have this fucking pie plate size group, or you could have a lot of different things that show up in that 10 round group.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you're just trying to get it to the 0.
We could take a Kurt 6UM barrel, right? So we took Kurt 6UM barrel. I'm not going to give you all who he is, but basically a guy who had a 6UM that was fucking hammering. We did some work to it, right? He had the original reamer. We ended up making some small changes. So we come over the top of it with the real reamer. And all of a sudden this thing was walking to the left or right, like massively, like inches.
6-8 inches.
Yeah. And, with each progressive shot, it got worse and worse and worse. Long story short, the rifle got here. We inspect the fucking barrel and the barrel shot out. So he gets a new barrel. We're going to throw it on there. But this just happened to be where I think we did the work to the barrel right in the amount of time where it was going to go. And I just tell you, it's a proof barrel. I don't think that being a proof barrel has to do with why it shot out or not, but
I don't know what he did, but it's 350 rounds. I mean, gotta be honest as I don't understand unless it was proof, carbon, baking it, some other aspects, because now we have a pretty big body of work on those barrels. This is a caveat to it, but big body of work, and it's
large sample size,
600 to 700 rounds where they're burning out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened with that one, but
there's always outliers.
yeah, what was weird is it was in a fucking straight line.
Yeah.
And you cool down and go right back.
Yeah.
Weird.
So when you see shit, the point is if you were 0 the year before and now you can't hit a fucking paper, that is your first indication something is wrong. Loose scope rings, bad scope, whatever the situation might be, fix the fucking problem. Don't just re-zero it at that point because something went wrong. Fix the problem.
And that group, the bigger group size shows you quicker, which you're not going to, all of a sudden you'll be shooting these 3-shot groups and you'll notice, well, I got 2 here and then 1 over here. I got 2 here and 1 over here. And you'll chase that around and you'll say, well, 10 shots is a lot of money. Well, fucking what's 60 or 80 shots chasing a fucked up group of 3?
Or what's an elk hunt cost you?
Yep.
Yeah.
So there is a method to the madness. We're just not trying to get you to burn ammo.
The point is that you could shoot the same ammo through the same rifle for 10 3-shot groups and have a different group every time. But if you overlay all those groups on top of each other and then take the center of that, you have the highest probability of being within your cone of fire. That's it.
Yep.
And I did, hey, just to be clear too, before Forum come on and kind of convince me of this shit, which is relatively new. I think the idea of larger shot groups for rifle representation is relatively new. But I was a 3-shot guy. We did low development 3-shot groups. We don't do it anymore, but we did, and we had a lot of good results. But in reality, we're trying to be as accurate as possible within real reason, not just a 1/4-inch group.
Yes. Yeah. And to me, I've seen it now a lot because I shot a whole bunch of groups the other day. I was shooting a 223. I told you about that ammo from Palmetto Arms or whatever.
Yeah.
And I got to 5 and I was like, oh, this is going to be the same as what the 77 TMKs were. And I shot that 10 and no, I had to move it a 10th. But if I just would have shot the 5, I'd have left it the same. Will a 10th cost me an animal? Maybe.
Yeah.
You're 10th the wrong way and you call the wind, they call the wind off by 2 or 3 miles an hour. Yeah, you're off. You're out there, you're off 0.5 mil, you're off 7/10.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, 10-shot groups, 30-shot groups, statistically better in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 shots is pretty much standard now.
So a clean functioning rifle and then a good 0. That's the best shit you can do to start. And it does cost you a little bit of money for ammo, but in reality, this doesn't cost you money. You're going to shoot the ammo anyway, right? So those processes are something that everybody can go through on their own, just to start.
And a scope that holds 0. That's a whole nother process.
Yes. Again, if you have if your rifle was 0'd and now it's magically not, something's wrong. So moving past that, we could talk about a little bit of shooting skill. We have a new 100-yard hunter's drill target set up on the Shoot to Hunt website. Was developed by Carl Ross. Want to make sure we give him credit. I did reach out to him and got his approval to sell these targets, just so you guys know. However, it is a outstanding drill. We're about to finish a video, but the targets are up. You'll see a video pretty soon. Probably when? It was pretty close.
He said it'll be next week. It'll be up.
So next week we'll get the video up on YouTube and then link it in the product description. But this is it's going to take you a total of 20 rounds. Is that correct?
Yep.
With 1 box of ammo, you could identify a lot of issues with you and your shooting system. That's basically what it comes down to.
Yes.
You can order 10 sets of these targets. So you can improve yourself 10 different times. That might be 200 rounds for you. Maybe you don't do all 10, but you can get those targets online. The instructions are printed out on the paper, and once you watch the video, it will make you a better shooter right before hunting season.
Right. We get into like I said before, I thought I was a great shooter, and I am if I'm on the ground. Once you get me off the ground, I'm an average shooter. And this tells you where your flaws are because you go through 4 positions. You go through standing, offhand shot, sitting unsupported, sitting supported, and prone, and it tells you where you're deficient. And then you can reshoot it, and it's out of 20. Like yesterday we had Owen, or 2 days ago we had Owen go through it. He had never shot it before, and he got a 3 out of 20, which is terrible, but that's okay. Like you want to get a 10 or above. Actually, if it was me, I want to get a 14 or above, because 14 or above means pretty much if you see an animal from 0 to 800 yards, you're probably going to be able to kill that animal. And it, like I said, it tells you. Everybody thinks they're great and they can hit an 8 MOA target offhand until you say go. And
Yep.
your wobble zone's 12 minutes.
At least it'll show you what you are capable of and what you aren't. A good representation is Mason. We had him bear hunting. Maybe this was 2 seasons ago, but we were driving up there. It was before we actually had bear cam, wasn't it? We were driving up there to bait.
Baits.
Yeah, so we're putting up baits preseason, and there's literally a fucking black bear sitting in the middle of the road in front of us at approximately 80 yards.
Maybe.
It may be 80 yards.
Couldn't hear us because the river.
Yeah, and my boy Mason was trying to lay down to make the shot, and the bear ended up walking away because he took too long, and I took too long with him. But now I guarantee you he just offhanded and dropped the bear.
Oh, there would have been, the difference is night and day between what would have happened then and now. He just would have got out, got off the road to where he was legal and shot the bear.
Yep.
So,
So it's pretty. That's just an example of what it can do for you. But and this is just going back to so rifle maintenance. And how about a little bit of practice before hunting season? Refresh yourself with your rifle and how your rifle works.
we miss because we suck at shooting, but we spend all this effort. Even if you're just a fucking weekend warrior, you're putting forth a lot of time, effort, and money. And the end result is you missed. And just a little bit of prep beforehand could have made the difference between a hit or a miss. Do a little bit of work.
A few boxes of ammo and 1 trip to the range. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
If you did that, you could do 2 hunters drills and a 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have another target in there. I always forget what it's called, but it's a zeroing and drill target. And it shows you your group sizes and MOAs, and it gives you targets, reference points to shoot out on the right and left-hand side. We made it the outside boxes with circles. It's 1.5 inches. And basically, if you can put your 10-round group we just talked about centered in that 1.5 inch circle, you're good. Move on.
Solid 0.
You're zeroed, and you don't need to dick with that anymore. Go do other practice positional wise.
Basically a zeroing target.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zeroing and drill target, but it is a drill. And what it does tell you is, it's got concentric rings out to 8 mils or out to 8 MOA. And it shows you if you wanted to shoot it offhand, sitting supported, kneeling, whatever, it shows you your group size. So it's cool. Instant feedback.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a little bit of, let's call it, so we did rifle maintenance and now we call it, shooter maintenance. And now there's kind of the other aspect that was the point of the podcast in the first place, was upgrading your rifle. Like all the men out there, we like to upgrade shit. We like to improve shit, make it better. We don't like factory nothing.
Like to tinker.
Yeah, like to tinker. So there's all kinds of opportunities to upgrade your rifle, whether it be a stock, let's say better scope rings, maybe a bottom metal and mag that has higher internal mag length, so you can kind of upgrade your ammo. For example, we have a UM Tikka bottom metal and mag that upgrades your internal mag length to 3.54. That allows you a lot more opportunities for longer bolts or longer bullets. Even those guys that have to shoot lead free, now you have the opportunity to load that lead free bullet all the way out there and not worry about mag length. Barrels, we have pre-fit barrels available. Rails, all kinds of
muzzle
stuff.
brakes, like
Muzzle brakes.
You want it, if you have a big ass recoiling rifle that you don't like to shoot, and the reason you're not shooting is because of recoil, well, have them thread it and put a muzzle brake on it.
I'll actually bring that up. So we just got in some Tikka 6.5 PRCs, but it's just a stainless super light. They just started selling these. We just got 4 of them in stock. They're $879. Again, a stainless Tikka super light and 6.5 PRC. They don't come threaded. You're going to want to thread that motherfucker and put a brake on it before we ship it to you. And this is the one place you can get everything done to a Tikka before it leaves here at Unknown. We are a factory Tikka dealer. We do have plain Tikka rifles for a sale at MAP pricing all the time. MAP pricing basically means we have the lowest price that Tikka allows, and that's across the board. You may find a cheaper price somewhere else, but it's because they're doing shit illegally. So whether it be, the big box stores, the Shields, whatever, if you do find something cheaper than MAP or cheaper than what everybody else is showing, that's just because they're cheating the system there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can do a trigger upgrade.
Trigger upgrade, definitely.
You can I just had a brain fart. I was talking
Again, just even if we just go through the rifle for you and do that whole cleaning process and Loctiting process, if that's not something you're confident in, let us look at the rifle before you go take it hunting.
To me, that's almost worse. Better than any of the upgrades you can have is just knowing your rifle's well put together.
Yeah.
And it's not hard, but there's also people with more time or more money than time. So
True that.
Rings. Bolt knobs. If you have a Tikka, we have a shorter bolt knob.
That'll make you run the bolt faster,
Run the bolt
re-engage your target faster.
Won't have that bolt pop-up problem.
And going back to the brake thing, dude, if you're shooting a 6.5 PRC rifle without a brake or anything on the end of the barrel, you're getting the shit kicked out of you and you're not staying in the scope.
Well, then you come to the fact that you don't want to shoot it anymore.
Yep.
And then you don't shoot it, so you don't sight it in. It's not correctly zeroed because you're trying to 2-shot, 3-shot zero it.
Yep.
To put them, you have it threaded. You could, you can have a muzzle brake put on and then order that suppressor.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is all fucking money, but if you're into it to fucking end result is a successful hunt and killing an animal, this is all part of the fucking process.
Yeah, as you go to the range, whatever it is that you're shooting, because there's shitty brakes out there too. You may think you have a muzzle brake, but if it's one of those radial things with some tiny holes in it, that ain't a muzzle brake. Just challenge yourself and tell you want to stay on target. You want to see the bullet hit the target. See how good you can stay in that scope and pretend it's an animal you're shooting at. That's going to tell you how good of a shooter you are and how much recoil or how much jump your rifle's giving you.
Yep. There's also upgrades wise you can also put on, bottom metals. There's basically got to bring the rifle in and they can tell you what we can do.
Yeah, and then almost any of the parts that we sell, like that bottom metal mag rings or whatever, if you come in here to the retail store and buy them, we're going to put them on for you for free. That may not sound like a lot, but it does help, especially if you're inexperienced with your rifle.
Yeah, and you're probably a little bit too late in the game to get anything rebarreled, anything. That's going to probably be a next year project.
Yeah, I think we're out through the middle of September right now on Chambers.
I got to put Jake on the spot because there was one time he said, we're going to have a 4-week lead time. I just giggled.
Well, okay, so I will say this. I will say we do have one more manual lathe over there, and I'm trying to get a guy on it full time. I have the guys. We're adding more guys to the team because I want a whole retail store full of Tikka rifles. I was just drilling Jessica about this. How come I can't fucking have Tikka rifles ready to sell in the retail store? And she gave a good answer. She said, because you sell too many Tikka rifles. And it's a good point, but It just means we need to add more guys to the team and get those rifles out there. But
if you can get it to where it's just even like 8 weeks, you're so far ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do, because you have to get the components. You got to put shit on there. And it's like nobody would say, I just want a 6.5 Creed Tikka. Well, that's fine, but they don't. They want a fucking 6 Creed. They want a 22 Creed.
6 Creed and 7 PRC. These are the two big sellers at the moment. Yeah. I did just learn, so we have a ton of inquiries for lefty 223s. Yeah. And I just learned that Campfeld can upgrade your standard lefty bolt to a 223.
Really?
I guess he made a bushing that goes in there and he welds a bushing in and does some machine work, and now you have a lefty 223. So we're ordering a sample. I basically asked Taylor and Keaton, who are the two main gun guys, I said, call him, ask him about his process, make sure that it's good to go, and then order a sample and let's see how it works.
You got to run the shit out of it and see how it works.
Yeah, he's asking $150 for the process, which for most of these guys is going to be worth it if it's a lefty 223, but we want to run it, cycle it, make sure nothing happens on that bolt face. And I'm sure he didn't just start doing it, so I'm sure it's okay,
yeah.
But yeah.
And Campfield's never really put out anything shitty.
No, he does a fine job, and he's been fluting barrels and bolts for fucking ever.
Those fucking lefty 223s from Tikkas are like fucking unicorns.
So I actually asked the rep, and he basically told me that we need to order 500 to bring him into the States. He did tell me also there's going to be a new Tikka program where you can order anything that Tikka makes. There's just going to be a hefty lead time, like an 8-month lead time. So in other words, I could order 5 lefty 223s. It'll just take 8 months to get here. That's going to start next year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's all new shit. And like I said, so I got 4 of those stainless 6.5 PRCs. Those are $879. Those just come out. The only way you could get a 6.5 PRC before was buying the Vale Woodland, like $1,500 Tikka.
Threaded. with the fucking
Comes with a Tikka, the threaded muzzle there, and I think it has straight flutes in the barrel, and it's colored, and it has a little bit better stock or whatever. So you had to spend that before. Now, if you're a guy that just wants the barreled action, basically you're going to do more work to it. $879 for a stainless 6.5 PRC is a.
It's not a better, it's just a textured fucking stock.
Yes, that's right.
Not even better.
Yeah, that's right. And eventually, when we get our shit in order, there would be rock stocks on the shelf for them too. But
Yep.
there is a big rock stock. Well, you guys are going to hear this actually on July 30th, so I will have already updated everybody.
There'll be a lot more happy people by July 30th.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So I think we touched on all. We do have a speak pipe.
Speak pipe.
Hey guys, Sharps54 on the forums. The name is because I have a Shiloh Sharps 1859 business rifle. It's a 54 caliber black powder, but a breech loader. Anyway, I'm calling to ask you, for those of us that don't live somewhere we can regularly shoot, we can't get out and shoot as much as we want. With archery, I can shoot arrows in my backyard, shoot arrows in my basement. Obviously, I can dry fire my hunting rifle and all that. But do you recommend like an air rifle and doing pellet rifles so you can shoot from positions, all that kind of thing? Is that worthwhile? Thoughts? Thank you.
My thought is just what we talked about. Everybody has access to 100-yard ranges.
Yeah.
Do the shooting drill. There's tons of drills online. Do the zero and target drills. There's about a bazillion drills you can do, but the hunter's drill, to me, for a hunter, is probably the best drill on the market.
Even if he meant that he didn't have access to a 100-yard range, they do make what they call like life-size 100-yard targets. So it's like what an elk would look like at 100 yards. So you can get behind your rifle, look at an elk through your scope, it'll be life-size, and dry fire the fuck out of your rifle in different positions. I mean, they can still do something if they can't get to 100 yards.
Fuck, he's got to have access to 100-yard.
Yeah.
And that bench to box targets, they have like some scaled 100. I think they have them at 50.
Yep.
I think it's them. 50, 100 yards, elk, deer, antelope, sheep. You could dry fire.
So put it in your fucking backyard or your front yard or whatever. You're just sitting there dry firing. I'm sure there are some neighborhoods that maybe it's not acceptable, but
I thought I shot a lot, and if he doesn't have access to 100-yard range, I'll be shocked. But when I bought that 223, it was like 2016, 17. I thought I shot a lot, but I now have 20,000 rounds through that 223. There's no way on earth you'd tell me I shot that many rounds through it that I'd have called you a liar.
Mm-hmm.
But pellet guns are fine, but damn, I think a pellet gun needs probably 25 yards.
Yeah, and it's not, it's almost always not going to be the same form factor.
Not the same. It's going to be a little smaller, a little crappier, terrible accuracy.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, you can buy those high-end ones, but I'm not assuming that's what he's talking about. At that point, I would just buy a 223, and then there's got to be a 100-yard range within 10, 15 miles of him.
Even if there's not, if you buy a suppressed 223, I'm sure there's, you can find a spot in some BLM land or some drive up in the mountains or whatever and be able to shoot that and not irritate people.
It's impressive what you can do, and Dione spoke to it, is how much you're really not giving up by practicing or even hunting, if your ranges are 500 yards and under with a 223, and how much more you will shoot.
No.
And obviously it makes you better. So that
especially like what, 60 cents a round is what you said for that?
Yeah, the Palmetto State Armory, I think that's right. I don't even want to fucking put this out there because they'll get bought up. They have black saber. It's made by Hornady, and it's 60 cents a round for 223. And I just shot it. I was worried, so I'm going to buy 1,000 now, but I bought 200 rounds, went and shot it, and I shot 10 shot groups. I shot 2. One was 1.3 and one was 1.4. So plenty of accuracy.
Wow.
And they're a tip bullet.
Huh.
Ring giveaway. Well, the thing, we changed up the ring giveaway. So you sent me the YouTube thing, Rhett, but we're giving it away for the guy, whoever you are, get a hold of us, that we just did the speak pipe about. I forgot his username at the beginning. Get a hold of us, podcast@shoothunt.com, because you got some rings.
Well, that's why you said you only wanted to do one.
I told you, I'm cheap.
I forgot that part. All right. Well, I guess we'll record another one and get the rest of the.
All right. What, anything left?
All the shit we talked about today, guys, is, again, you're going to hear this on July 30th. We're actually going to start a sale the same day you hear this podcast. So head over to Unknown Munitions for 20% off all Unknown Munitions products like bottom metals, mag, scope rings, rails, pro brakes. So all the SRS and all the UM stuff will be available. Again, if you're local, it might even be worth a drive for you. If you're a little ways out, come into the shop. We'll give you a tour. Bring your rifle with you. We'll get it all dialed in, get shit installed, help you with that clean and maintenance if that's what you need. And yeah, so again, the same day you hear this podcast, the sale will start. It'll go throughout the week to the end of Sunday, and it is the Upgrade Your Rifle sale.
I like it. And the thing is you are still the biggest variable in the process. So upgrade yourself too. Go to the range more. Try to get a little bit more target time in.
Maybe a little more protein.
A little more protein. Yeah. Get your Fairlife. Get some protein so you don't shake so much. Hit the fucking gym.
A little bit of tread, a little bit of protein.
Oh, how's that going?
Goes a long way. Oh shit! I don't
How's
want to
that?
talk.
So he's like, I'm snapping a little more. Not snapping. He said I'm a little more truthful on it, which is interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't say snappy. I would just say that I have the urge not to hold back as much. I'm a very politically correct type of.
You're very measured in your responses.
That's correct, and I seem, and I didn't hear it. I didn't feel it during this podcast. So if we get on the feed, if I start razzing on you too hard or something, then you'll know. But anyways, I just felt a little more. I feel a little more snappy.
It'd be interesting because I bring my intensity level to the other person's intensity level.
Oh shit!
So I like to see the Jake like that. For a while.
Fuck!
So he's just started. So
Yeah.
his nuts are getting smaller. He's
They
getting
are.
more agitated. Yeah.
Hey, to be honest with you, I heard one of these about me. I heard my kids, dude. I've already had 2 kids and they're almost grown. They're almost 18. And I don't care if my fucking balls get smaller. I really
What
don't.
if they fall off?
Maybe if I get what do you call it? Where you're not you can't produce anymore.
Oh, fucking impotent.
Well, I don't know. Impotent, I think, is just you can't get it up.
Isn't like, I don't know.
Basically, like you got cut, but not being cut. Infertile.
Yeah, impotent. I think.
If this
Look
is
up the
gonna
definition of impotent.
if this is gonna do something like it's gonna make me infertile, well, it might be better for me because then I don't gotta go get the cut. I haven't been cut yet.
Dude, I have been, and it wasn't fun because I went hunting the next day.
Oh
It
shit.
didn't hurt, and then it fucking did really fucking hurt.
Oh no.
And I was stupid enough that I was like, I'm gonna take it easy. So he doesn't know how to spell impotent.
Of course not. He spelled infant.
So I went and I sat in a fucking tree stand with my nut sacks on a fucking seat. Dude. I could barely
Oh,
walk for
shit.
2 fucking days.
It's probably like when you do a hardcore leg workout, you don't work out legs, and then it hits you like 2 days later. Unable to take effective.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can't get an erection. You're
Can't,
right.
yeah.
I didn't know it. Impotent.
Well, I'm generally right.
We're also
Generally.
50-50. Like if we were to break it down.
It was 40-60 earlier.
No, that was in fucking
Podcast quality, topic quality.
40% of the best for the 40%. The okay ones were 60.
Oh boy.
Well, if you don't need them, then you're good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that. And then, why you're already big, Woody, and I don't think I'm big. It's a typical fucking guy thing. I want to lift a little more.
When are you gonna cut?
I don't think I'm going to cut. I'm going to do.
You're just gonna bulk.
Well, I think, the bulking part is just like having enough protein, right? But
Right.
I literally don't, I have to try really hard to maintain the weight that I'm at right now. So I wouldn't really call it a bulk. I'm not like, some guys will fucking melt down a half gallon of ice cream and drink it. And that's part of the bulk. Like you're trying to get as much calories as possible to give it. I can't eat enough. I can barely eat enough right now to maintain where I'm at. So it's not really a bulk to me. I'm kind of just, I'm trying to be less fatty and more muscly.
Gotcha. Is that a technical term?
Definitely.
Less fatty, more muscly.
Yeah.
Wait, we went all over in this podcast.
I think it was good. I think the whole idea of prepping for hunt season, I think all guys go through it in a different way. I think a lot of guys maybe don't know what to do to prep as far as the zero process and everything else that, that we talked about. I think it's valuable for anybody out there, whether you have a $10,000 custom rifle or a fucking $600 Tikka. I think everything that we talked about pertains to every hunter out there.
And I would say as a whole, hunters are more serious and focused than ever before, but they leave out there's little holes in their game. And what you're talking about, rifle setup, rifle prep, rifle being zeroed, hell, just doing a fucking PMCS, just basic preventive maintenance. Sometimes they don't do that.
Yeah. They've been looking at the right backpack to carry for the last 6 months, trying to make that decision. And yeah.
It's easy to buy shit. It's hard to do the fucking shit that's tedious and crappy, and I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, get a hold of us if you have a problem with me or Jake or anything we've said. Podcast@shoothunt.com. And like I said, go and leave us a message on the speak pipe.
If you happen to be a fucking threadlocker scientist expert, we'd love to hear from you, but you have to be a fucking expert. Like, write us an email, then we'll read it online or whatever that'll debunk any myths that may have been spoken about. We did our best to talk mechanically and truthfully and look up fucking specs online. But if you happen to be that expert that can do the math and tell us exactly what torque value it increases or decreases by using Threadlocker on your clean threads, anything like that, just write us, speak pipe us, and we'll get it on here.
Appreciate it. Thanks for listening.